Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment, right before the breakthrough, when everything seems to fall apart, when the world goes silent, doors close, and doubt screams louder than your dreams. But what if I told you? That very moment is the proof you're closer to winning than you've ever been. The pressure you feel right now isn't punishment, it's preparation. The struggle you're in is not the end of your story, it's the sign that victory is standing just beyond your reach, waiting to see if you'll take one more step. The moment you feel most like turning back is often the moment you are about to arrive. What separates the few who reach their dreams from the many who do not is not luck or timing, it is their ability to recognize that pain and progress often wear the same disguise. The mind, in its impatience, tries to interpret discomfort as danger, but the spirit knows better. It understands that resistance is not a barrier, it is the forge where strength is made. Every ounce of pressure, every ounce of fatigue, every unanswered question is refining you into the person capable of holding the reward you seek. It's a curious thing how life withholds its treasures until it's sure you're ready. Not because it wants to deny you, but because it wants to prepare you. If you received every blessing the moment you asked for it, it would slip through your fingers. Success requires not just desire, but discipline, not just vision, but maturity. When you find yourself waiting longer than you planned, struggling harder than you imagined, and learning lessons you never asked for, understand that life is not delaying you, it is developing you. Sometimes, progress takes the form of losing things that once felt necessary. Friends may drift away, routines may change, opportunities you counted on may vanish. It feels like the ground beneath you is shifting, but in truth it's being cleared. Growth requires space, and often that means letting go of the things that cannot follow you to your next level. You cannot climb with both hands full. The shedding you experience is not loss, it is liberation. The things being removed from your life are making room for what's been waiting to arrive. You may notice that, as you get closer to your goal, the noise in your mind grows louder. The doubts become sharper, the fears more specific. This is not because you are weak, it is because your subconscious knows that something significant is about to change. The human mind fears change even when that change is good. It clings to the familiar because familiarity feels safe, even if it's unfulfilling. That fear you feel is not failure approaching, it's transformation demanding to be acknowledged. Whenever fear rises, it is a sign that something meaningful lies beyond it. The greatest victories in life are often preceded by the quietest moments of uncertainty. There will be times when you feel invisible, when no one notices your effort, when recognition seems to go elsewhere. But invisibility is not insignificance. It is the sacred space where excellence is built. The most extraordinary people in history did their best work long before anyone saw it. The public moment of success is merely the unveiling of years of private persistence. If you are working in silence right now, if you are showing up with no applause, take heart, the silence is the soil of greatness. You might look around and feel behind. Others seem to be moving faster, achieving more, gaining recognition, while you remain in the shadows. But comparison is a thief of progress. Every path unfolds according to its own rhythm. You cannot measure your journey with someone else's clock. What you perceive as delay may actually be divine timing, the precise alignment of preparation and opportunity. Trust the pace of your progress. The road that takes longer often builds deeper roots. There will also come a point when your faith will feel thin, stretched between belief and doubt, between what you know and what you hope for. That is the crucible where conviction is born. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty, it is the decision to keep moving despite it. Every step you take in uncertainty builds an invisible bridge that will carry you forward when the ground feels unstable. The more you walk, the stronger that bridge becomes. Some days you'll feel like nothing is working. You'll question your decisions, your timing, your path. You'll wonder if all this effort is worth it. But remember, the farmer doesn't dig up his field to check whether the seeds are growing. He trusts the process. He waters, he waits, and he believes in the unseen. Your dream is no different. Just because you can't see the results doesn't mean the roots aren't forming. The process takes time, and time is not your enemy. It's your ally. It ensures that when your success blooms, it's strong enough to last. You will know you're nearing victory when you begin to sense a quiet inner strength that wasn't there before. The challenges that once shook you no longer do. You may still face storms, but you're no longer afraid of the rain. That calm is evidence of transformation. Growth doesn't always make life easier, it makes you stronger. The measure of your progress is not in how little you struggle, but in how powerfully you rise. At times, you will see doors close, opportunities that seemed certain suddenly vanish. You may feel as though life is taking from you, but often those closed doors are acts of grace, not punishment. Life closes one door only to redirect you toward the one that's meant for you. The rejection you're experiencing may be the very protection you need. The delay may be the alignment that ensures your success is sustainable. You are not being denied, you are being directed. Another sign that you're close to your breakthrough is that you begin to sense gratitude even in difficulty. You start to understand that the hard days shaped your discipline, the setbacks built your resilience, and the disappointments taught you patience. Gratitude transforms pain into wisdom. When you can give thanks for the struggle, you've already begun to master it. Gratitude is the language of winners, not because they have everything they want, but because they recognize the value of everything they've learned. You may also find that, as you grow, the opinions of others matter less and less. What once wounded you now feels irrelevant. You begin to realize that most criticism is projection, most doubt is misunderstanding, and most judgment is fear disguised as advice. When you stop living for approval, you free yourself to live with authenticity. And authenticity is magnetic. It draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. The closer you are to winning, the less you'll need validation, because you'll start to recognize that your worth was never in question. There comes a day when your old excuses no longer satisfy you. You stop blaming circumstances, stop resenting the past, and stop waiting for perfect conditions. Instead, you begin to act not because you feel ready, but because you've learned that readiness is a myth. That moment of decision, when you choose movement over comfort, is the moment life begins to bend in your favor. Every great achievement began with someone who acted before they felt prepared. The decision to move forward is itself a declaration of faith. Sometimes winning doesn't look like progress. It looks like persistence. It looks like getting up one more time, showing up when you're tired, giving your best when no one notices. Every act of endurance is a vote for your future self. Success is not a single event. It's the accumulation of thousands of quiet decisions to keep going. The closer you get to your goal, the more invisible your progress becomes, because what's changing is you. You're becoming the person who no longer needs to chase success, but attracts it by who you've become. Pay attention to the signs around you, new opportunities appearing, old habits falling away, the sudden alignment of events that seem too perfect to be coincidence. These are not random. Life begins to organize itself around the person who is ready. The energy you've been investing, the belief you've been nurturing, begins to shift the world around you. What once seemed impossible begins to unfold naturally. The current starts to flow in your favor, not because life suddenly became easier, but because you have finally become aligned with what you were meant to do. You will notice a deepening of perspective. Things that once consumed your energy no longer hold power. You'll see that success is not about proving anything, but about becoming everything you were designed to be. You begin to value peace over recognition, purpose over applause, meaning over money. That's when life begins to open in extraordinary ways, because you've stopped chasing the surface and started living from the source. And as you walk this final stretch toward your breakthrough, remember that you've already done the hardest part. You've endured the uncertainty, faced the resistance, weathered the silence. You've proven that you can stay when most would leave, that you can believe when evidence says otherwise. That endurance is the clearest sign that victory is not ahead of you, it's already within you, waiting for its moment to emerge. That endurance is the clearest sign that victory is not ahead of you, it's already within you, waiting for its moment to emerge. Every effort you've made, every hardship you've survived, every tear you've shed in silence has been preparing you for this point. You are not merely chasing success anymore, you are embodying it. The shift is subtle, but profound. Success stops being something external you strive for and becomes a state of being you carry within. There is a certain quiet confidence that comes when you realize that nothing was wasted. The sleepless nights, the doubts, the delays, they were not detours but directions. They were guiding you, sculpting you, shaping the depth of your understanding. Life has a way of using every experience, even the painful ones, as raw material for your purpose. The moments that once broke you are now the very reasons you are strong enough to rise. The cracks that once made you feel weak are the openings through which wisdom enters. You begin to see that winning is not a single moment of triumph, but a series of awakenings. It's realizing that you no longer react the way you used to, that you handle disappointment with grace instead of anger, that you keep your focus when chaos surrounds you. These are victories, too invisible, quiet, deeply personal. They may not draw applause, but they mark the true evolution of the mind. Growth often whispers, it doesn't shout. The world celebrates outcomes, but real success lives in transformation. When you reach this stage, you notice that your relationship with time begins to change. You no longer chase it or fear it, you begin to respect it. You understand that progress is not measured by speed, but by direction. You stop trying to rush the process and start trusting its pace. You realize that the long road is not punishment, it is preservation. It ensures that when success arrives, you are not only able to reach it, but also sustain it. The person who rushes the process risks losing what they gain. The one who honors the journey becomes the master of it. There will still be days when the old doubts return, when impatience whispers that nothing is happening. But now you have the awareness to see those thoughts for what they are, echoes of an older self. You recognize them, you acknowledge them, but you no longer obey them. You know that the presence of doubt does not mean the absence of progress. In fact, it often means the opposite, that your vision has expanded beyond what your old beliefs can comprehend. Every new level of growth demands that you outgrow a previous mindset. You'll also begin to feel an increasing sense of responsibility, not out of pressure, but out of purpose. You realize that your success is not only about you. It carries within it the power to inspire others, to lift others, to remind them that they too can rise. The example of your perseverance becomes a torch for those still walking through the dark, and that awareness fills your effort with new meaning. It transforms ambition into service, and service into legacy. As you continue forward, you'll encounter moments when life seems to test your integrity. You may be offered shortcuts, temptations to compromise your values for quick gains. But something inside you will resist, because you've come too far to betray what you've become. The person you are now understands that lasting success cannot be built on broken principles. The foundation of true achievement is character, not convenience. Each time you choose integrity over expedience, you fortify that foundation, and though the reward may not appear immediately, it will come multiplied and enduring. There is another subtle shift that occurs as you approach your victory. Peace begins to replace urgency. You stop grasping for control, you stop forcing outcomes, you learn to move with faith rather than fear. You realize that life responds not to desperation but to alignment. When your intentions, your actions, and your mindset are in harmony, opportunities begin to meet you halfway. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop fighting and start flowing. That inner calm is not passivity, it is mastery. Sometimes you'll notice small coincidences, a chance meeting, a timely message, a sudden opening that feels divinely orchestrated. These are not accidents. They are confirmations that you are in rhythm with the path you were meant to walk. The universe has always been conspiring on your behalf. It simply waited for you to align your thoughts and actions with belief. What you once called luck is now simply the natural result of inner clarity. The clearer you are within, the smoother life becomes without. You begin to understand that struggle is not the opposite of success. It is part of its structure. Every challenge you face refines your judgment, deepens your wisdom, and expands your capacity. Without resistance, there can be no refinement. Without friction, no polish. You realize that every obstacle was never placed to stop you, but to strengthen you. And the moment you start seeing challenges as allies, you stop fearing them. You begin to move through life with a quiet authority that comes from knowing you can handle whatever arrives. There will be moments of solitude on this path, not loneliness, but solitude. They are necessary. Growth often requires silence, space, and stillness. In the quiet, the mind reorganizes itself. In solitude, the spirit remembers its purpose. You come to value your own company, not as an escape from the world, but as a return to your center. From that place, clarity flows. The noise of the world no longer dictates your direction. Your own inner compass does. And as you keep walking, you'll find that joy begins to arise from unexpected places. It's no longer dependent on outcomes, but on awareness. You start finding joy in the process, in the learning, in the effort, in the simple act of showing up fully. That kind of joy cannot be taken away because it doesn't rely on external conditions. It's rooted in gratitude, in the understanding that life itself is the ultimate opportunity. You stop waiting for happiness to arrive and start realizing it's been with you all along, waiting to be noticed. You'll also see that your perception of failure changes completely. What once felt like a dead end now feels like redirection. You understand that every setback carries information, and every disappointment is instruction. You start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" instead of, "Why did this happen to me?" That single shift in question transforms frustration into insight. The person who learns from failure cannot truly lose. Each fall becomes a step forward in disguise. There will come a point when you begin to feel a sense of inevitability about your success. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. You start to realize that nothing can truly stop a person who refuses to quit. The external world begins to bend to the strength of your internal conviction. The more certain you are within, the more the world begins to reflect that certainty back to you. You understand now that success was never about competing with others, but about aligning yourself with your highest potential. You may still have challenges, yes, but they no longer shake you. You've developed what can only be called emotional endurance, the ability to remain steady under pressure. Where others panic, you remain calm. Where others give up, you adapt. This calmness is not weakness, it's mastery. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows that storms pass, and that the same wind that seems to resist you can also propel you forward if you adjust your sail. Every day you move forward, you strengthen the invisible forces working in your favor. Your consistency builds momentum, and momentum has a power all its own. Each small act compounds into something extraordinary. Every bit of effort, every hour of persistence, every choice to believe when doubt surrounds you, all of it adds up. And though progress may be invisible for a time, it is unstoppable. You begin to feel gratitude not just for the moments of triumph, but for the process itself, the long nights, the uncertainty, the moments of fear that forced you to grow. You realize that the true reward was never the trophy at the end, but the transformation along the way. You have become wiser, steadier, more compassionate, more focused. You have learned to see beauty in endurance, strength in patience, and meaning in the mundane. And as this awareness deepens, something profound happens. You stop asking when success will come, because you realize it already has. The very act of becoming this person, resilient, faithful, patient, and purposeful, is the victory itself. The world outside will eventually reflect what you've already become within. The timing, the recognition, the results, they are merely the echo of a victory that has already been won in the unseen realm of your mind and spirit. The timing, the recognition, the results, they are merely the echo of a victory that has already been won in the unseen realm of your mind and spirit. The outer world always follows the inner one. It has no choice. It bends slowly but surely to the shape of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your persistence. And once you understand this law, you stop worrying about when things will happen. You simply know they must. The moment you align your thoughts with purpose, the universe begins rearranging itself to make room for the reality you are building. What once felt uncertain now feels inevitable, because you've become certain of yourself. At this stage, patience no longer feels like waiting, it feels like wisdom. You begin to see that rushing is a symptom of doubt, and steadiness is a mark of faith. You no longer chase moments, you build momentum. You stop forcing outcomes because you understand that what's meant for you cannot be missed, and what's not meant for you cannot be forced. This understanding frees your energy. You move with quiet conviction, with a kind of calm determination that doesn't need validation or urgency. That is the power of an anchored mind. It moves slowly but creates waves that never stop. You start noticing a shift in how you handle adversity. Where before you might have seen a wall, now you see a door disguised as one. You start to understand that problems were never placed in your life to break you, but to build your perception. The person who sees clearly will always find a way through. You learn to meet challenges with curiosity instead of frustration. What is this showing me? Becomes your question, and every time you ask it, life answers with a lesson that strengthens your understanding. You stop labeling experiences as good or bad, you simply recognize them as necessary. And in this recognition, you begin to feel lighter. You stop carrying the weight of every mistake. You no longer punish yourself for the moments when you fell short. You realize that self-criticism is not a tool for growth, but a chain that holds you back. Forgiving yourself becomes an act of liberation. You begin to treat your own journey with compassion, recognizing that you've always been doing the best you could with the awareness you had. That self-compassion becomes fuel, because a mind that feels safe within itself is capable of achieving anything. You might also notice that your vision begins to expand. The goals that once felt enormous now seem small. Not because they've lost their importance, but because you've grown beyond them. What once intimidated you now inspires you. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. This is how life reveals your next level by transforming fear into familiarity. Every time you outgrow something, you are shown the next mountain to climb. And though each new peak will bring new challenges, you no longer approach them with hesitation. You welcome them because you've learned that the view is always worth the climb. There's a certain serenity that comes from understanding that life is not happening to you, it's responding to you. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and begin feeling like a participant in creation. You realize that your thoughts are commands, your emotions are signals, and your actions are declarations. You understand that the world outside is simply mirroring the world inside. Change your state of being, and everything else begins to shift. That's when you begin to live intentionally, not by reaction, but by design, and this shift in awareness begins to draw people toward you. They sense something different, a stillness, a certainty, a lightness. You become magnetic not because of what you say, but because of what you radiate. People can feel when someone has conquered their inner chaos. They are drawn to peace the way flowers are drawn to sunlight. You no longer have to convince anyone of your worth. Your presence speaks it. Influence stops being something you chase and becomes something you naturally embody. You will also start to notice that opportunities begin appearing in the most unexpected ways. Doors you didn't even know existed will begin to open. People will cross your path at the perfect moment. Resources will show up just when you need them, and what once felt out of reach will seem to arrive with ease. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. You've spent so long tuning your thoughts, refining your focus, and strengthening your faith that the outer world has no choice but to catch up. What seemed impossible before now becomes effortless because you are finally in harmony with the flow of life. But even in this flow, there will still be tests, not to punish you, but to prove your growth. Life will occasionally send small storms to remind you of how far you've come. The difference now is that you no longer fear them. You meet them with composure, knowing that storms are temporary, but your strength is not. You've learned to anchor yourself so deeply in purpose that external conditions no longer determine your direction. This emotional stability is one of the clearest signs that you have evolved. You no longer need everything to go right to feel right. You've found balance within. There will be moments when nostalgia tries to pull you back, the temptation to return to old habits, old patterns, old comfort zones. But comfort no longer satisfies you. You've tasted growth, and growth has a flavor that comfort cannot match. You realize that stagnation is far more painful than effort. You would rather climb a mountain than sit in a valley pretending to be content. And so you keep moving, not out of restlessness, but out of reverence for what you are capable of becoming. As you walk further along this journey, something even deeper begins to unfold. Gratitude turns into grace. You start seeing every interaction, every delay, every success, and even every disappointment as part of a larger, perfect design. You stop questioning why things happened and start trusting that they happened exactly as they should. This level of acceptance brings profound peace. You no longer need to control everything because you finally trust that you are being guided. The same intelligence that governs the stars and tides also governs your path, and it has never made a mistake. You may look back one day and realize how much you've changed, how the person you once were would not even recognize the calm strength you now carry. You've learned that success is not about getting what you want, but about becoming the kind of person who no longer depends on circumstances for peace. That realization alone is a kind of freedom most people spend their lives chasing. You have become someone who is no longer ruled by outcomes but guided by purpose. And as your awareness deepens, you begin to notice that the same challenges that once felt personal now appear universal. You see your own journey reflected in others. You begin to understand that everyone is fighting a silent battle, their own doubts, their own fears, their own tests of faith. This understanding fills you with compassion. You no longer judge others harshly because you recognize that they, too, are learning how to rise. Compassion, you realize, is not weakness, it's strength refined by understanding. You also begin to give more not because you have to, but because it feels natural. Giving no longer feels like loss, it feels like overflow. You understand that abundance flows through those who trust it. You no longer hold tightly to things out of fear, you share freely out of faith. The paradox of giving is that it multiplies what you have. The more you release, the more returns to you, not because of transaction, but because of transformation. You have learned the great secret that the act of giving is itself a declaration of trust in the endlessness of life. Your definition of winning evolves too. It's no longer about comparison, no longer about being ahead of others, no longer about external status. Winning becomes personal. It means waking up with peace, walking with integrity, working with joy, and resting with gratitude. It means being fully alive in each moment. It means knowing that you have nothing to prove because you are already enough. This kind of victory doesn't fade, it deepens. It becomes the foundation of every action, every word, every dream that follows. You begin to realize that the person you were striving to become has been within you all along, waiting patiently for belief to catch up. You were never trying to find success. You were learning to remove everything that kept you from seeing it within yourself. Every hardship, every delay, every challenge was simply carving away the unnecessary so that your true self could emerge clear, capable, and complete. And as this understanding settles into your being, you find that the chase ends not because the dream has died, but because the dream has transformed. You no longer move from lack, you move from fullness. You no longer pursue success, you express it. You no longer wonder if you'll make it. You know that you already have because you've become the kind of person who cannot lose, no matter the outcome.